Welcome to our micro-credential module, Scaffolding for Emerging Bilinguals. This is a quick introduction to tell you what this module is all about and give you some brief information to get you started. When we talk about this term, emerging bilingual, what is it and why does this new label matter? You might be used to using the terms English learner or English language learner, which we often say EL or ELL. These terms follow a deficit model. They really focus on what students are lacking, and it's a limiting term. It shows the student in the light of just a learner. But when does a student stop being just a learner and gets to be an English user? This term also fails to highlight that students are becoming bilingual, and this should be used as a benefit in the classroom, not a deficit. In contrast, the term emerging bilingual shows that the student is bringing bilingualism as a benefit. It doesn't only limit them to being bilingual, but it can also mean multilingual as well as multicultural. This term does not follow a deficit model, and it focuses on what students bring to the table. It emphasizes the importance of home language use and doesn't make a student feel that because they don't speak 100% English that they are going to fall behind. Both of these terms, however, do refer to students who are learning English, and they do both refer to students who require differentiation and scaffolding. Calling students emergent bilinguals makes reference to positive characteristics. Again, it's not one of being limited or just being a learner, as the term ELL suggests. This new term, emergent bilingual, refers to the children's potential in developing their bilingualism. It does not suggest a limitation or a problem in comparison to those who speak English. As such, bilingualism is recognized as a potential resource. Therefore, emergent bilinguals are seen as having an advantage over those who speak English only and for whom becoming bilingual will be more difficult. This isn't something we always see in the classroom. We assume a student who does not speak full English will have a harder time. So we need to change our outlook and see emergent bilinguals as bringing benefits to the classroom with their previous knowledge. As we move through this module, it's important that we continuously reflect on how our activities and our lesson planning relates to CRMT. CRMT stands for Culturally Relevant or Responsive Mathematics Teaching. So if you're not familiar with it, what is it and why is it important? Culturally responsive math teaching can be described as a pedagogy that empowers students intellectually, socially, emotionally, and politically by using culture to impart knowledge, skills, and attitudes. We must teach the way students learn rather than expecting them to learn the way we teach. This recognizes the importance of including students' cultural references in all aspects of learning. We must make sure that we value all ideas in our classrooms and value all students. CRMT has a rubric which a link is provided so that you can see all the categories, but I want to just highlight the category Academic Language Support for Emerging Bilinguals. Now, as we develop lessons or reflect during this module, we want to keep a focus on the 4 and 5 column. So I encourage you to pause this video just to scan through the levels 4 and 5. You should notice that the pattern is focused on multiple uses and deliberate uses of these language strategies. So feel free to jot down these language strategies so that you can use them later during your lesson design. This rubric shows the transitions that students experience as they come with their native language and begin their lifelong journey of learning English. On the next slide, you will see a summary of this, but feel free to briefly scan each level on the continuum and see how the students grow throughout their journey. In summary, students come to school with a wide range of home language resources to be tapped. We no longer can look at these as deficiencies, but should now look at these as benefits the students bring to the classroom. As students work through the levels and learn more English and become English users at more complex levels, we can still consider them to be learners for their entire life. Just like as teachers, we consider ourselves lifelong learners. The goal should be for students who are reaching proficiency in English to continue to build the depth and complexity in comprehending and communicating not only in English but in all languages. An important aspect of this module will also be translanguaging. Translanguaging is a process where multilingual speakers utilize their languages as an integrated communication system. It allows children to connect their previous life experiences to new learning. So instead of thinking in one language and having to translate it in your head and say something else in English, the student is now thinking and processing in both languages, using their home language knowledge to make connections to what they're now learning, and it all becomes integrated together. We know the best way to get students to learn and understand if they are learning is to hear them talking. We have to get students talking and explaining and writing as much as possible. So although we are all math teachers, we still need to have the knowledge of how the academic language of math works, and we need to be prepared to help all of our students read, write, and discuss that content. It is so important that teachers encourage and promote a classroom culture of discourse that validates the diverse language practices of emergent bilinguals. This is a major goal of this module as well. National Council of Mathematics states that math must promote additive models in teaching and learning, be the springboard for academic achievement, engage teachers and students in critical dialogues, and support culturally and linguistically inclusive and responsive education for all emergent bilingual students. So as we're making our lessons throughout this module, our focus needs to be on these things. So how do we support translanguaging in the classroom? Here are some of the do's and do nots. Some of the do's: ask students to share the names of vocabulary terms in their own language. Find cognates where possible. Even students who speak English, this is a great strategy to use as we're relating words that we use in a different context to math words. Provide students with multilingual resources. Place students in home language groups to discuss problems using their home language, English, or both. We do not want to limit this. Allow students to write notes or journal in their home language or in English. The important part is they're able to express their ideas. We don't need to limit them to always write in English. Front load the vocabulary. If we want students to use the vocabulary, they must understand what it means. Provide multiple representations of math concepts and encourage students to use multiple representations to represent their understandings. The biggest do: always expect all students to participate in math. Because a student doesn't speak English perfectly doesn't mean they should sit there silently. That is the biggest disservice we can do for our students. The do nots: don't constantly translate. It's important that student learning is focused on the math, not on its translation. Don't teach the lesson in English and then reteach it in another language. Instead, introduce the topic in one language and plan how to apply the learning in the other language. Scaffolding strategies to facilitate mathematical discourse and meaning making in the classroom are as follows. Front load the vocabulary. This can be done by charting key terms, writing on an anchor chart for the students to reference throughout the unit. Beware of words with multiple meanings. We talk very fast. We're used to saying these things. So when we say create a table, think about what that might mean for other students. Translate the figure. Make up a word problem. To an English speaking teacher, we understand what those words mean, but they have multiple meanings, so really choose your words wisely. Use models to support representation of understanding in multiple ways. This can be used with Frere models, a four-square model for solving word problems. Give those models as support. Support participation for all students. Use sentence frames, think pair shares, intentional groupings, guided math groups. Really set your students up for success. And lastly, build on funds of knowledge that students already have. Observe students to see what they have already learned in their home language and see how you can bring that to the math lesson to enhance it for all students. A look at the goals for the module. Develop meaningful discourse in the mathematics classroom to focus more on meaning making versus using correct English. Goal 2, incorporate scaffolding strategies that support content and language learning for emerging bilinguals. Goal 3, create mathematical tasks that include opportunities to fully access linguistic and cognitive supports. We hope you enjoy this module. We're here to support you, and we hope you have a beneficial experience.